Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Platform, talking AI data readiness every week with Trisha. And today we have a special guest. Erin Wiggers is with us to talk AI ROI metrics. Why'd you want to talk about this today, Trisha?
Why? Well, uh, okay. I have no words today. I'm sorry. The tongue is not working. The tongue is not engaged because because I just feel like people are starting to look at this. I guess that's the answer. Is
Mhm,
people are starting to say like, but is it really helping?
mhm.
And it's not enough to like just say, well, yeah, I know it's like you. That's not I'm an analytics person. I like show me the numbers. That's what I'm always saying. So I'm like, how do we do this?
Right. And I feel like all of the companies that were kind of earlier adopters who like put out the mandate of like everyone use AI are now like getting the bill and wanting to know like, okay, what do we get for that? And most people don't have an answer.
Yeah, if they're even being nice about it. Otherwise, we're hearing about 95% of companies aren't getting any value out of AI, which is
Right.
completely ridiculous. But also why we need some of the things we're going to talk about today in terms of like building frameworks and understanding, how we're going to measure this stuff in a different way that doesn't put us like marketing versus sales and like all of the old traps, the measurement trap in this case specifically of just asking people to tell different stories based on where they're at in the organization, based on what data they do or do not have, interpreting it in different ways. And it's getting super interesting because ROI as a concept is always like that value prop that everybody runs towards. I don't know that I've ever seen or heard of an actual decision being made on that value prop, um, because it's hard. Like, prove the ROI, proving the ROI through things like marketing attribution, right? Like, how has that gone? Not well. And now you have the people that popularized it from Marketo and and like the NetSuites of the world, Oracle, like literally the people who started this journey of this is how marketing automation is supposed to work. This is how MQL. They're telling you not to do that stuff. And not only are they telling you not to do that, they're also saying maybe it wasn't a good idea, like to begin with, right?
Thanks,
Like,
guys.
and like this is the juicy part for me with AI. It's like it's super obvious when you try to ask AI to create ROI in this way and you relate it to things like time and hours spent and effort and impact. Like, first of all, we need AI's help to determine things like impact across a very complex, buying journey and um, internal org like setup, but also like coming back to like what's actually driving value and being able to measure that and designing metrics around that. All of a sudden, it gets super clear about how to measure this stuff, what's important, what's not important. And there's people building AI observability tools. That's why we brought Erin on today that can make it very clear. But we got to make the decision first to say we're going to change how we think about and measure value and the flow of value across the organization, like in exchange with our customers. And, so I'm excited that you're able to join us today, Erin.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
I am too.
so I think that's the best way to start talking about this is if you could like share whenever you're ready.
Yeah, for
And this relates to, I think I'm contractually obligated at this point to say unified customer view in every single one of the shows. this is highly related to that because the visibility is what gives you a chance at real ROI understanding and numbers. So if you can get to the visibility of how this is flowing and how tokens are being used and how people are using AI and when they're using it. Like if I was like, oh man, Trisha's token usage like way up this month. And then you go look at it and it's like, oh, she just sent like 1,000 more emails like with those tokens. Like,
Mhm.
is that valuable? Maybe, but maybe not at the same time. So
Right.
those some of the questions, Trisha, that you see people are dealing with as they, kind of think about this.
I hadn't I hadn't even thought of that, to be honest. But definitely the idea of like how much time are people spending, how much, like, is it making people more effective? Um is it giving small teams the opportunity to do more with less overhead?
Mhm.
Those types of questions, those are questions that I know smaller orgs have for sure.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they're doing anything to try to assess how their teams are doing.
Yeah. And it's hard when the first like initiative comes from the leader and says, all right, everybody, please use AI to get your job done now.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm. And even they don't know what that means.
Right.
Like,
And now it's in the
go forth and chat. Like, what are we
right.
talking about?
So however you as an individual decide it's a valuable usage of AI, like, go ahead and do that. Here's licenses and accounts for everybody.
Mhm.
That's going to make it real damn hard to understand the ROI on this stuff because there's so many different ways to use AI to help. And I think a key part that we're going to see is, can you be more productive? Can you get more done? Right? How we define the value of more like means everything here.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking in the pre-show about requirements, and I know that the quality of requirements that I either draft for teams to like weigh in on
Mhm.
or send off to teams to build, I know that they're far superior than what I was creating a year ago, just
Mhm.
because there are a lot of use cases that I didn't come up with on my own. And so it forces me to like tie that loop instead of kicking that can down the road and waiting for somebody else to have to encounter it, stop, and then fix it. Like that has to be resulting in some time savings somewhere because the problem is being addressed sooner, where it's a pen and paper exercise as opposed to something that's already been built out. And oh, now there's this big wrinkle that we didn't think about.
Mhm.
So that's one use case I think about. Others is, I was just talking about overhead, and for small companies, overhead is like the most important thing. And I know that I've been able to do some things that I used to have to hire additional people to be like, certain obstacles got presented and we either couldn't get past them or I had to go hire somebody. And with very finite small budgets, like you're done in a lot of those cases.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of problems kind of converging with this question of what is the ROI for your AI. One of them is that most of the team accounts that were kind of like touted by, ChatGPT and Claude and all of them to, get this team account, like that reporting falls so far short of what is needed to really get the answers to your questions. So now you've got to be thinking outside of the team platform. And also within the team platform, most of the time there's not multiple agents at play. So for people who do want to have multi-agent systems, tracking that usage, not just API calls, but API calls and what agent they hit, what tools did they use, what skills did they tap into, all of that you have to bolt on. So it's not a simple process. And then the last piece that I think is still missing from everywhere is that there is no way to tie the usage to actual revenue, because in order to do that, now I need to track all of my agents. I need to track all of the tool use, all of the skill use, how much each API call is costing, and I need to tie that to a revenue source. And they just simply don't live in the same systems. They're almost not even in the same universe, where like getting these systems to talk to each other is exceedingly difficult. And so when Chris and I were working on this platform, one of the things we realized kind of halfway through the build was, oh wait, we just put everything in the same arena, essentially. And we're like, okay, this is actually pretty straightforward now. And so here's what this kind of platform solves. All of your team is in one interface for their chat, and they can chat with ChatGPT, they can chat with a custom model, they can chat with Claude, whoever they want to chat with, that can be configured into this system. So you're not locked into a platform. Your team is going to use it like Slack, which is traditionally the easiest thing to get adopted in an org, because that is how you communicate with people. And it's kind of all the rest is kind of secondary to Slack. And so there's lots of silos of like everything lives in Slack and it's not in the CRM, or it's not, captured anywhere else. So we're eliminating that friction of, oh, we need to report this or write it down, or, people are still trying to like self-track hours and things like that. And it's not going to work. And so what we have here is this system. It's a multi-agent system where we have supervisor agents and then sub-agents. Each sub-agent has its own tools, has its own, oh, that one doesn't have any skills. You have no skills. And then, you have visibility into what those agents are and what they do. And then in our dashboard, you can track that against actual deals. So by having those deal-based chat channels, just like you would have in Slack, right? Like everybody has like the client channel, and that's where all the client stuff goes. So you have that kind of interface, but you can tag in an agent at any time. So now we can see what kind of questions are being asked, what kind of prompts are we using for this particular client. Where is AI touching the engagement? Is it during the sales process? Is it as, on the back end where we're tracking health scores? So the way this measures it is, so you have your total AI spend, and these are just fake numbers for now. Total AI spend, revenue closed that's AI assisted. So now we have a way to say, when a deal is closed won, we can look at our system and say, 4 people chatted with AI agents for, 3 hours total over the course of the sales process. So now we have an actual number that we can put on, we closed this deal, it was AI assisted what does that revenue look like? Which also opens it up to, you could A/B test this. You could use AI with some clients and not with others, and see what the revenue, like the closed won rate is. So opens up a lot of doors for tracking and understanding the data better. And then revenue protected is it will have these health scores, and if you take a proactive measure due to a client's low health score, and you either retain that business or cross-sell or upsell, now that's going to go into your revenue protected bucket. And then finally, the hours saved, because we know what the conversations were about, we can essentially group those into buckets of like, these are the tasks that would have taken a human to accomplish the same thing. And then we can compare the hours. And so you've got 3 ways to look at how AI is contributing to revenue. And then you can measure it just right against the total spend, because all of it's happening in one platform. And it's crazy how easy it looks in here, because like we were just talking about, like it's very difficult to do, and there's a lot of complexity and there's a lot of moving parts. And so much of that is resolved simply by putting everything in one place, and not expecting people to track things in different systems and all of this stuff. Like, if you can just give people one place to go where they can get what they need and it's trackable and traceable. Because what we have with this is, oops. Let's go here.
I'm wondering, how many different things is this connected to? Like, you did mention Slack. I'm assuming it's connected to HubSpot because you've got client data in there.
Yes.
How many different systems is an example? Whatever. What do you call this? Client? I don't know.
Operating system.
Yeah, operating system.
How many integrations would this thing have, or systems would it be integrated with?
So one thing that I found recently that I've incorporated into this platform is this thing called One AI. It's just called One. But one of their products is, come on. Here we go. It's basically an open source. Where's I just wanted to show you what it is.
It's a tool that connects to every other tool.
It's a universal adapter for APIs. So there are 250 apps similar to Zapier. You can see like what triggers there are versus what actions you can take. And so the possibilities are pretty limitless with this, and also very tightly tied to the user that's in the chat. So by plugging in these apps, you're not giving everyone on your team like carte blanche to just do whatever they want in any app. There's a ton of governance happening, and it's actually controlled through the One platform, where they go in, they set up all the apps they want, maintain it through that interface, and anything that they need is then automatically piped into the system. So right now I just have and I'm logged in as Chris. Sorry, Chris. but I haven't, you can connect it to Google. It can pull in your email and your calendar. You can connect it. This one is connected to HubSpot, obviously, but it could be really anything. A lot of, or the database layer of this app is Supabase. So one way that it has that like knowledge base management kind of infrastructure is through another tool that that goes to Supabase, and then all of the kind of extra data that you need can just be easily kind of dumped into this one thing, because all of the reporting data, like all of the stuff from these agents, where you can see like all the different things it did, you can, all of that data is going into Supabase. So you can literally just run reports on, what are my most used agents? What are their most used tools? What am I spending the most money on? Which clients are taking up the most bandwidth? When you dump all the data into one place, it starts to make a lot more sense. And it starts to give you a lot more options for how to make it actionable. And so that's one thing that we've built into this, where it's as extensible as you need it to be, but no one on your team needs to understand anything about AI or the terminal or anything, code, anything. Everything is done through this interface. You can talk directly to the agents. You can tag any of the agents in any of the channels. So they really do become part of your team in a trackable, traceable, report-onable type of way.
Yeah. And again, this starts, I think you have to start with the understanding of how people are going to work with AI naturally, which now is conversational, right? So basically, the system allows everybody to have conversations like in a trackable way, in an observable way that has never been possible before, right? And like never been possible because there's always these moments of, whether it's the dark funnel and having conversations out on social and just places you can't possibly own. And the difference between like copying and pasting data into Slack versus connecting Slack directly to HubSpot, and then having that be the same. And then how are they going to click on it? Are they going to click on the notification from their email and then go into HubSpot and do it there? Are they just going to handle it in their Outlook email? Like all of that was SaaS's response to like, let's help them get the thing done in a very non-conversational kind of way, because maybe we can track it better. Maybe we can make it easier when everybody just wants to talk about it, like to get the thing done. And so now we have that ability to just talk to AI to get help to get the thing done. Everybody's going to choose that, like once they trust it, right? But we also still want to talk to humans. And the one thing that I hadn't seen solved yet is the ability to do both at the same time. Like even these team accounts, the LLMs, like we still can't share a chat and then just jump into the same chat and have three of us talking with the same context to, to carry on the conversation. We always got to start a new one. We always got to like, can you give me a handoff prompt to give to Trisha so she can continue this conversation with you? And then we're passing it back and forth. Right. That's not like we'll do that because it's still super valuable to use AI in that way. But it would be infinitely better if we could just not have to do that and operate to where it could be human to human. It could be human to AI. It could be AI to AI. It could be human plus AI, right? And when we do it in a system like that, that's also connected to the revenue data, like surprise, ROI gets easier, right? But the teams, the organizations have to decide, let's let people have conversational process and work. And the fun part about AI is that if you do that, you can track it, you can measure it, right? I think stuff like scores are going to move towards sentiment analysis, and kind of how we see health scoring working in HubSpot already is based on what people are saying in conversations, like words that and just wait till we have video where you can read body language and just all that stuff that can signify the difference between closed won and closed lost, right? The difference between nodding and smiling and getting really excited about stuff, or the moment like the leader checks out because you can't stop talking about how awesome HubSpot is and they just want to know what the ROI is going to be, right? All those moments are capturable and measurable on video. We just have never made it possible to measure it in context, to observe it in context, right? What do you think, Trisha?
I have a question. So if somebody's trying to figure out what impact AI is having on their org, they've got this system. Do they need to try to establish any benchmarks before they deploy a system like this? Is that helpful, or is it unnecessary?
I think it's definitely helpful, but not required. It would be helpful to know your close won rates before and after. It would be helpful to know how long your team is spending. So if you have time tracking data from your project management system, even just pulling some data down and putting together some rough numbers to compare is better than nothing. But you can still there's still ways to do A/B testing. Maybe you have a couple of clients that you're going to roll this out on first, and so you're allowed to tag AI in those channels, and the other channels you're not, and let the data tell you which one is better. So I think it's helpful, but not critical, because it's so wildly different from how it was being done that it's almost apples and oranges. But yeah.
And this brings me to the reason why I don't like the ROI conversation, because we've always had this issue with HubSpot too. It's if you use a system like HubSpot, you can improve your sales velocity. It's okay, you want that? All right, what's your sales velocity now? I don't know. What? I don't know. Oh, you don't? All your sales team makes deals at separate times in the process, and there's actually zero chance that we have to determine this number that you want to improve, right? So in those cases, you got to know current state in some capacity, right? But to Erin's point, I wouldn't over-index on it, because this is going to be radically different. Right. But I think and this is where it's the difference between visibility and attribution. Where do you know how your team works right now? Do you know how they're using their day? Right? If you don't, and then you go tell them to use AI, of course, you're not going to have any visibility or understanding of how helpful AI is going to be. Meanwhile, if you have closed won debriefs is where everyone should start. You just get everybody in the room. What did you do on the way to closed won? And there's your benchmark. If you've never done it before, people telling you out loud, well, I did this, and then I did this, and then I talked to this person on their team and this person on my team. It's gonna be all these moments where you can be okay, did AI help you do that? did you use our skill? Did you use the prospecting agent? Did you use, the Breeze properties? Did you use Breeze at any time? Right. And start to get an understanding. Okay, at this point in the process, they're starting to use it. Now, how do we build the architecture? Like to see that without having to ask everybody every time. Right. It's never been easier to make the space for that conversation, because you just have to have the conversation out loud, and then you take the transcript, you give it to AI, and it's like, all right, you need this property, and you probably should change these stages, and this is who's in charge of that. And then the next week you do the same thing. And I just did it with the team yesterday. It was my first coaching call where I got to spend the whole time working out of my Claude Code instance, because they were thinking about, like, they need to make a change into one of their pieces outside of HubSpot. And it started with, well, if you need to do research on what's available, let's have AI do that for you. Right. And you made a really nice comparison, like, website of these 3 different vendors. And meanwhile, none of us have really the capability to evaluate these vendors on a technical level about how much should cost and all these things, right? So I asked them previously to say, all right, like, have a conversation with each other about what you need the system to do from a business perspective. They talked for an hour, took that transcript, put it into Claude, and Claude made a product requirements, a functional requirements doc for them, something that they would not be able to do. Then they gave it to me. I added it to the website. You get to this point where all of this, and again, why I dislike the ROI conversation, you get to the point where AI helps you make the decision. And sure, like, if those people would have actually done that, it would have taken 10 to 20 hours of their time. But instead, they just don't do it. Right? So it's not even 20 hours saved. It's actually, they picked the right vendor that was a fit for them, and let's measure that, opportunity, instead of having shown up and say, all right, we should have done all this work, but we don't have time. We don't know what we're doing. So are you the right vendor for us? Right? Which is how it works. Like, usually, like, I don't know anything about it, so please be nice, salesperson.
Right.
Right? Like, the ROI, what's the ROI on that? Making huge decisions for your organization from a place of, much more confidence and leverage, honestly. Like, they don't need to know what all that information is, but when they show up like that, they're going to have way more leverage than they would have had normally. And I bet they're going to out knowledge the person on the other side. Right? So it's to help teams have those conversations right now. Even as we talk through it, like, it concerns me that we're going to decide what this metrics, like, framework's going to be, and making sure we're not making decisions just so that we can measure stuff, I think is always something I'm trying to be mindful of.
For sure.
Maybe that's a part 1, Trisha. I feel like this is such a big, it's a conversation that needs to be had for sure, because leaders need to be able to speak to it. But it's just a completely different world at the same time.
For sure.
So I hope that was helpful for everybody out there. Anything else before we go, Trisha?
I think that was a great part 1, because I have follow-up questions, and I know that more are going to become, like, I already have a couple, and I know that more will be coming up as today turns into tomorrow.
That's a great way to put it.
It'd be great to have you back, Erin.
Oh, I would love that.
Yes, indeed.
Anytime.
All right. That was fun. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.